Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to take the tempo down a little now, give you a chance to get a bit of sleep, because I'm going to read you a story. It's a story of one of my great folk heroes, Biggles. It's an unpublished story of his called Biggles Goes to See Bruce Springsteen. It's a little out of date now. Not as out of date as Absolute Beginners, but it is getting that way, because it actually refers to Bruce Springsteen's first visit here in 1976. Biggles lit a cigarette and exhaled slowly and thoughtfully. He gave a little cough. Then a slightly bigger cough. Then an enormous, roomy, wheezing wrench of a cough which nearly flung him off his chair. He gasped for one brief, gravelly intake of breath, but was cut short by a retching, racking, heaving, spume-ridden roar that seemed to split his chest like a sledgehammer. Oh, that was better. Suddenly the rough wooden door of B Hut was pushed aside and Algy entered brandishing a newspaper. "Algy, how often must I tell you not to come in here with nothing on?" muttered Biggles tersely. Algy was clearly very stoned. He clambered up onto Biggles' desk and began dancing provocatively. "Hey, Algy, for ballyheck's sake, watch out for those meteorological charts," cried Biggles. "Hey, man, I'm so happy," warbled Algy, his fleshy white body cavorting crazily in the flickering light of Biggles' hurricane lamp. "I can tell you're happy, Algy," countered Biggles grimly. "Look, man, look!" grinned Algy, jabbing his finger at a copy of the Midshire Advertiser. Biggles' eye was drawn to a large black-bordered advert beneath an article by Peregrine Worsthorne called Lighting Fires with Communists. "Finally, Midshire is ready for Bruce Springsteen," he read. "Who the ballyheck is Bruce Springsteen?" queried Biggles testily. "Who is Bruce Springsteen? Where have you been all these years, under a rock?" Biggles hated Algy when he was like this. He would talk all hip and come out with silly suggestions like getting Bob Marley to play the Royal Tournament. It was always Biggles who had to deal with it in the morning. On this particular day, Squadron Leader Bigglesworth was in no mood for Algy's little games. "Look, Algy, go and lie down. We've got some heavy flying tomorrow." Biggles' remarks seemed to send Algy into paroxysms of helpless laughter, and he fell back against the wall, grabbing at Biggles' huge "We Rule It" map of the world. A crack appeared just outside Barcelona, and running across Europe, down through the Caucasus and the Tigris and Euphrates basin, it was accelerating into southern Assam when Algy toppled helplessly off the filing cabinet and onto the floor. He lay there shaking, the southern hemisphere draped across his stomach. Biggles could stand it no longer. In a couple of strides, he was beside Algy. Well, actually, he was a little beyond him. One stride would probably have been enough in that small room. He turned and took half a stride back. But that took him too far the other way. And when he bent down, he couldn't quite reach Algy. So he stood up and went back to where he'd originally started from, and this time took only one stride. It brought him right up beside Algy. In fact, a little too close to him this time. He'd overcompensated and now could hardly bend down at all. He took half a stride back and tried again. This time he found himself in quite an interesting position, astride Algy's body. As he bent down and took hold of Algy's still heaving frame, the rough wooden door of B Hut was suddenly pushed aside again and Ginger entered. "Oh, I'm sorry, Biggles," he declared quickly. He was about to leave again when Biggles stopped him. No, come in, old chap. You can help me." It's not my scene, sir." "But thanks all the same," muttered Ginger coldly and turned to go. "Well, spill the gin, Ginger. Bruce Springsteen's coming to the Midshire Odeon, sir." Biggles exhaled slowly. He coughed. Involuntarily at first, then with a quick throat-clearing rumble, which developed into an uncontrollable, shattering, rasping, sepulchral rattle of mucus and phlegm which nearly turned his lungs inside out. Oh, God, what a cough. The Midshire Odeon had never seen anything quite like it before. Their previous highest attendance had been 10, when Michael Dennison and Dulcie Gray toured in 1927, with the Arthur Spendlove partially nude aerial ballet, who were arrested during the performance. The local police had drafted in extra support to deal with the hoped-for violence, and a special drug squad And a special drug squad had been set up for the evening under Mahmoud Ali Raka, alias Joseph Cole, alias John Odinga, the vicar of Midshire. I'm so very excited, I can hardly keep this kite on course, shouted Algy from the cockpit, as the twin-engined Hilton Morgan biplane headed for Midshire International Airport. Ginger was reading. Born to Run is a work of complete and unadulterated genius. It makes the Sistine Chapel look like the toilets at Millwall Football Club. He had in his hands a huge book called 6,423 Wonderful Things About Bruce Springsteen, and was navigating with his feet. Biggles was in the back of the plane, sewing. Ginger suddenly lowered the book, and a trace of anxiety crept into his otherwise quite unanxious voice. You have got the tickets, haven't you, Algy? Sure thing, Ginger. I've tucked them into my flying suit where no one will find them, shouted Algy above the roar of the two 17-horsepower Spengler and Cottesford single-cam engines. Ginger grimaced. Algy always put the tickets down there, and though they were safe, they were nasty and sweaty by the time he got to the concert. I say, Algy, he shouted, do you think I could have my ticket now? Well, it's pretty damn difficult to get them out while I'm sitting like this, Ginger, old chum, yelled back Algy. It's just that what with it being Bruce Springsteen, I want to have a squint at my very own ticket, screamed Ginger. OK, I'll have a go, bellowed Algy. And leaning back, he began to undo his flying costume. Biggles looked up in alarm. Put it away, Algy, for God's sake, he bawled, remembering Algy's unusual penchant for exposing himself in light planes. Just looking for the very tickets, old bean, reassured Algy. Biggles ruminated on how much nicer Algy was when he talked like that. He heard a dawning look of horror settling across his handsome, non-spotty features. Oh, shit, conjectured Algy. Wash your mouth out, ordered Biggles, dropping his sewing. Shit, repeated Algy. They're gone. The fucking tickets are gone. Biggles slapped Algy hard across the face. Don't you dare use language like that aboard this twin-engine Hilton Morgan biplane. Algy turned and gave Biggles 6 left jabs and a swinging right to the jaw. Biggles hurtled towards the back of the plane, hit his head a glancing blow on the first aid box, and slumped into unconsciousness. I've got to see Bruce, screamed Ginger hysterically. I've got to see him. I've got to see the rock sensation of the 70s. I've got to jump. Don't be a fool, yelled Algy. There's only one parachute. And I'm wearing it, roared Ginger in triumph, pushing Algy aside and hurling himself out of the plane. No, you're not! Screamed Algy over the roar of the engines. Ginger paused in mid-fall. Algy was right. What he had thought was the parachute ripcord was only his hearing aid. He pulled it hopefully, but it just came out of his ear. Don't worry, I'm coming after you. We'll get to see Springsteen, yelled Algy, as he clambered out of the plane and dropped towards Ginger. Don't forget the parachute, screamed the accelerating Ginger. Oh, shit, ejaculated Algy. When Biggles came round, he realised he was the only one left on the plane. He dragged himself into the cockpit, grabbed the joystick and eased himself into the controls. He looked down at the frozen countryside below him. Algy and Ginger were awfully close to the fields. It was a pity, really. He liked them both, but what were two rather stock fictional characters compared to the greatest white musical talent to emerge in America this decade? Biggles set course north-northeast for Midshire. It was 8:30. The concert should have started at 8, but Biggles knew the roadies would still be bringing the guitars on. He settled into his seat and smiled to himself as he felt the cool, crisp assurance of the 2 front circle tickets and the lining of his old flying jacket. Finally, Biggles was ready for Bruce Springsteen. Thank you.